Georgia lawyers Bob and Irreverent D talk law. Listen up for stories about how things really happen in our legal system. Today, Bob and Irreverent D welcome attorney Anne Marie du Toit, and they talk about attorney misconduct. Now, sit back and take a listen as Bob and Irreverent D talk law.
All right, welcome to the Bob and Irreverent D Talk Law podcast. I am Bob, short for Benjamin O. Benson. I'm a personal injury attorney in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm joined today, as I am always, by Irreverent D, Dwayne Singleton.
So you're playing on my phone.
Put your phone down. Everybody put your phone down.
I gotta find this chick's thing.
Oh my gosh, anti-sexist. Great. This is why we can't have nice things.
I'm not sexist.
Okay. So anyways, we're joined by Irreverent D, Dwayne Singleton, criminal defense attorney extraordinaire, family lawyer in the south of Atlanta area.
I wish I was half as good of a criminal defense attorney as this guy is a personal injury lawyer, but I do my best.
I'm trying to do the math on that. I'm not quite sure. I'll come around to it. And we're joined again, it's been a long time, by Anne Marie du Toit, a longtime friend of the show. I feel like it's been forever since you were here, but welcome back. She was such a hit. The first time that she was here talking about the exclusive remedy doctrine in workers' comp and assaults by coworkers, that we had her come back so we could talk about, what are we talking about today? Well, we're going to start by talking about the young thug.
Yeah, we had a question. We were talking about stuff.
The Mr. Thug trial, right? Yeah.
Off air.
Before we went live, before we went on the record.
And what was your question?
My question was, what did you think about all the drama at the Young Thug trial with the defense attorney that was potentially feeding people information?
What was the story? I forgot what happened.
Apparently, there was some arrest that was going to be made. Am I right about this?
Yes, they arrested her.
Okay. But it was because there was an arrest that was going to be made, and she tipped off, allegedly, the person that they were going to be arrested. Am I right?
Yeah. So Nicole Fagan, who's by all accounts, a pretty badass criminal defense attorney. She's young, aggressive, does a fantastic job. She got into this Young Thug trial.
What was her involvement in the Young Thug trial?
She represented Tinquavius Minder, who was one of the co-defendants. You know, there was, 30, 40 at the beginning, and then we whittled it down.
We're down to like at least less than a dozen now?
And so I guess they had other young YSL members that were still under surveillance that they were looking into, and she got caught on a wiretap talking to one of them like, hey, if you still got that gun, you need to get rid of it.
Oh, that was oh my God.
Yes.
I don't remember this happening.
Yeah,
okay.
So she got arrested and charged.
It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it was very recently, and so now I guess she's off of the case and possibly will lose her bar license if she ends up with a felony conviction.
Let me make sure I understand. I'm going to unwind that and make sure I got it.
Yes.
So Fagan.
Yeah.
She's representing one of the co-defendants in the YSL trial.
Yes.
In the Mr. Thug trial.
Yes.
Okay. And the police are actually surveilling her client. Or
yes.
A bunch
her
of
clients, right. Which happens quite often. I've ended up on wiretaps.
You personally?
Talking to my clients.
Talking to your clients.
Yes.
Well,
I can't use it, but I'm on there. Because they're calling the office 100 times, right? And they're still...
And they're still under investigation.
And they're still under investigation, right? Yeah.
Okay. So they're saying that she told her client, better get rid of this evidence.
Yes.
But I mean,
not the one that's on trial, so another client.
Oh, a different client.
Yes.
Okay.
If you got this gun, you need to get rid of it. And so trying to look out for her client and didn't look out for herself, because you can't advise somebody to break the law. Right? You can't say, no, I can't. You can't say, hey, Dwayne, I'm going to go.
Don't you tell
I'm
clients
going to go rob a bank.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to know the best way to do it. I can't do that. Now, if you told me, hey, Dwayne, I just robbed a bank, I can't talk about it. Right? It's protected by.
You can't talk about the fact that they.
But if you say, hey, I'm going to go shoot some people, you know, don't tell me that. I can't know.
But you because you have to say something.
Right. If I know there's a future act of violence.
Right. If there's some imminent danger to somebody.
To other people. Right.
Okay. But I mean, you advise people to plead not guilty to crimes all the time. Isn't that criminal activity?
Well, so they might be guilty, not necessarily of what they were charged with. All right, so
very good.
We're
all guilty of something. Right?
Generally, you always enter a not guilty plea on all of your cases. get your discovery, see it. You might look at the discovery and go, oh, okay, we are guilty, right? Or we're not guilty of count 1, but we might be guilty of count 2, or we've got a problem with the indictment, so we're fighting over the indictment or whatever. But you get into a situation when you're like, hey, the GBI are looking into you. You may want to hide that shit, right?
Right.
Now
Not a good idea.
You've become part of the crime.
they've charged her with gang activity.
Wow.
She'll
Get
get
5 years at a minimum if she gets convicted.
if she gets convicted
Yeah.
because she's participating in the.
Yes.
Yikes.
Furtherance
Oh my
of the gang, right? And so it's hard because, you know, in these gang cases, all they do is bring up your Facebook page. Are you friends with this guy and this guy? Was he in prison? Is he a gang member? Yeah, I'm sure they are out there somewhere. You probably are too. You don't even realize it.
I'm on their Facebook page.
Right, yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
And
I'm
I'm sure
following
there's
somebody.
somewhere where you're throwing a peace sign up, you're done. Throw a red bandana on there, you're toast, man.
I might. But so, I know you can't tell me to delete any of those peace sign pictures.
If I didn't have a law office and I didn't need a social media presence, I would have none of it.
Really? Because
It's
it's just
not private. The police can get into it like that. All your messages can be retrieved.
right.
All your stuff that you think you're doing under the cover, they can get it in a second.
Interesting. So, Anne Marie, have you been following this Mr. Thug trial?
You know, it's just so much drama.
Georgia's
Yeah.
longest case now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was aware of it because I live in Fulton County, and they were trying to impanel a jury, and apparently it was taking, how long did it take to impanel that jury?
9 months.
9 months, because they were telling him to expect it to be about like a year-long trial. And so who can sit on a jury for a year?
Well, not even the lawyers. Lawyers
Yeah.
have fallen off like flies because, you know, you get like $5,000-$10,000 for a case. You can't do that for a year.
No, it's bad news.
Oh, you mean the lawyers who are representing some of the lesser defendants?
Yes.
I see.
But they're stuck just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But I think they've had 2 babies during the trial where attorneys have had babies. And now they've got an attorney that got arrested and charged with a felony.
But there was another attorney, correct me if I'm wrong, that was like smuggling something in.
Yes, supposedly gave one of the defendants some drugs during the proceeding. That was investigated. I don't think anybody got charged, but supposedly they saw him. He takes City.
Was that the same time that somebody like hacked into the audio visual system of the Fulton County Court and like put a video up of of somebody like with no clothes on
Yeah, that
dancing?
was around the same time.
Yeah. That part I do remember. I can't unsee that. Yeah, that was.
I mean, I think if Brian Steele wanted a mistrial at this point, he could probably get one.
Point to just about half a dozen things, right?
Yeah, but he must think he's got it, or otherwise he would just.
Is that the defense attorney?
That's the main one that's representing
Okay.
Young Thug. Yeah.
But what would a mistrial mean? Does it start over?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you get 2 bites. They get 2 bites of the apple, right? So they get 2 shots at a mistrial.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So if they're coming after me,
Yes.
they say, Ben, you're guilty of felonious mobbery or whatever, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not guilty. And I get a hung jury at trial.
Right.
Then that would be a mistrial.
Yeah.
And then they could re-indict me.
Right.
They could try me again.
Right.
And if I get a mistrial again,
Right. It's the same thing as if they mess up the indictments twice, right?
I didn't know that. I didn't know that either.
Yeah. So you quash the indictments, they screw it up again, quash it again, then they can't re-indict.
So 2 mistrials, no more.
Yeah, but
Okay.
he's.
So is that
But most
why?
of the time with like a smaller case, like when I get a mistrial,
Mm-hmm.
95% of the time they don't retry it.
Right. And
It
90.
just kind of quietly goes away. Nobody hears anything about it. Nobody re-indicts it. It's only when they really got like a.
It's like the Tex McIver or whatever, right?
Yeah, when they really want you really bad.
Yeah.
You know, that they'll come back and redo it again.
I didn't understand. You know, we have been very, very careful never to say the T word on this show. But it did. I mean,
It's because I don't want to be under investigation by the.
Can you tell me what the T word is?
Trump.
Oh.
You did it.
No. But I mean, that did come up, right? Like there was this big thing happening where the defense lawyers were trying to get him unindicted, right? Because of the whole Fani Willis prosecution thing. Were you following that?
Yeah.
Okay, but I never understood, what the value of that would have been. And now that you've said that, maybe it's kind of starting to sink through 2 layers of my thick skull, right? If they had gotten...
I don't know how that would work because on an indictment, they only get 1 shot at taking it before the grand jury, right? So
Okay.
unless they mess up the actual indictment itself. But the indictment, if they take the indictment in front of the grand jury and the grand jury no bills it, then they can't
Then that's done.
re-indict it again under some different wording and try it again. That would be double jeopardy.
You know, I read somewhere, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I read that it's difficult to find a special prosecutor for cases like this.
Oh, I
And
see.
so if you lose your special prosecutor, maybe it's a lengthy process to find somebody else.
Yeah, I would imagine it'd be pretty. Either it's going to be a career move that you end up being a senator, or it'd be career destroying. There's no middle ground.
Right.
Seems to be that way in the upper echelons of politics. It seems to be like, hey, maybe don't get involved in the upper echelons of politics because there are a lot of
Well, and it's
casualties.
getting so
Yeah.
litigious now. I mean, you see, where attorneys are getting in trouble.
Yeah, didn't that
For what
attorney?
one of Trump's attorneys got in trouble
Yeah.
and indicted and charged, and then they're going through, what would normally be attorney-client privilege stuff. Well, now we're going to charge you with whatever, and I mean that's, to me, terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
There was an attorney in Colorado lost his bar license because he represented Trump. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Anyways,
So I just steer me and my little independent side. I just steer clear. Over
you stay in your nice little lane.
libertarian.
Right. So I did want to get. I mean, now that we've kind of stepped over that line, I did want to get your impression about like the whole prosecutorial misconduct allegations that they were making about the prosecutor. In my mind, not being a criminal defense attorney, I was like, well, so what if they toss the indictment? They'll just re-indict the guy,
Right.
And so what if they, if they get
But
rid
they
of
can't do it over and over and over and over and over.
you can do it once or twice,
Right.
and that's pretty much it,
Yeah.
right? But okay, I kind of see that value. But like, what they were accusing her of? It just didn't seem to me like that.
Especially if you've been in the legal field as long as we have.
Right.
You're like, okay, somebody's dating somebody else and with somebody else, and
Yeah.
as long as it's disclosed and everybody knows about it, and there's no funny businesses affecting your case, and you're not sleeping with clients, like it happens.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay. So my impression about it was right, irrespective of what I think politically.
I think
like,
the
I shouldn't
payments
think it
can
was that
be
big
a
deal.
little quirky when you
The
start
what?
payments. When you talk about,
Yeah, but that's a separate
are you
issue.
paying them more, paying them less? But that's doesn't have anything to do with whether the
That doesn't have
indictment's
anything to do with
correct.
the defendants.
That
right.
seems more like a how are you performing your job generally.
Right.
Yeah.
That's and your remedy is a political remedy.
Right.
Right. If you think that the district attorney is
Vote her out.
is misusing whatever, she's a political appointee or she's a political person to vote her out. Right. That's your remedy.
Well, I think that's what they've done is they made this so political now.
Right.
Right. I'm talking to defendants down in South Georgia, and they're talking about the DA in Atlanta, and I'm like, that has nothing to do with your. That's nothing.
It has
Not
nothing to
the
do with
same
your case.
thing.
Yeah.
Well, can we do that here? No, that has
No.
nothing to do with your
No,
case.
can't do that here.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, what kinds of things could you do though in South Georgia? Like if this can't be the first time that you've heard one of your clients say, well, they're out to get me, or they're like they're whatever, right? Like this is a put up job. Or,
Yeah, and I have clients say, the sheriff hates me, or the DA hates me, or they don't like me, or we need to have them removed. And my common statement is, and we've asked for cases to be transferred, and we've asked for cases to be moved. But if you shoot at the king, you better damn well kill him.
You best not miss.
Right?
Right.
If that judge hasn't said anything from the bench, and he hasn't said anything in any of your hearings that's a problem, and he hasn't made any political statements out there that are a problem, and you go raising something asking for him to be removed or raise something with the JQC, you better kill him or you're toast.
Kill him, meaning get him removed from the case.
Right. And some people will do that just because they've raised those issues with the JQC, that the judge will step down just because it happened, right?
Right. Because the judge maybe wants to avoid every appearance of impropriety or whatever.
You better know what county you're in, who you're dealing with.
Now, have you had to deal with that with a judge that like just kind of doesn't like you, doesn't like your client, or anything like that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like how would you handle in a civil case? I wouldn't even know what to do. Like
Yeah.
what?
I mean, they're the boss, so it's hard to navigate that sometimes.
Right, because they have so much discretion, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
they can decide whether to toss your defenses or your pleadings. Yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely make a civil case harder.
Yeah. Well, that's
You
certainly
change your charges.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
They can strike your pleadings. Sure. I had that happen one time. I was a little bit late on filing some responses and this judge really, like, we had locked horns a couple times, and I'm not accusing anybody of any like misconduct, but certainly their eyes were like super scrutiny on me. I did not have any leeway with that judge at all. But what Kim, you mentioned the
JQC?
the QBC? No. What is the
It's the organization that monitors the judges, and you can make a JQC complaint, and they'll come out and do an investigation. I think now, though, since the rules have changed, they actually get like a jury trial now on some of these JQC issues. Before, it was just the JQC came in secret. All of a sudden, the judge would just resign quietly and it'd be gone. But
yeah, it was like 10 years ago. They kind of changed the rules.
I think
right?
one of the judges that was investigated by the JQC went in and became a state representative, and then changed the
law.
Right.
It's funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's who's supposed to look in, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do, and they're being impartial and unbiased. But you'll have, especially in small towns down in South Georgia and stuff, they'll say, "Now, I knew your daddy, and I knew your granddaddy, and you knew better," and you're like, why are you not recusing yourself from this case, Judge? Well, he's not recusing himself because he's the only judge.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and because your client is not unique, he knows all of them.
Right.
All of them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, what we didn't do was ask you, Anne Marie, about your practice earlier in the episode. Like, tell us about your practice.
All right. My law partner and I have a law firm, and we represent mostly injured parties that were injured by the negligence of someone else. We handle some civil rights cases, again, that relate back to people being injured, some medical malpractice cases, things like that.
Civil rights cases? Well, like, what does that entail?
Most of the cases that we'll handle are when someone was injured badly and it was a constitutional violation, typically by a state, city, county actor. They can be difficult cases because there's a lot of different immunities to pursuing that type of claim, but we, if it's the right case, we'll take it.
Yeah, all my clients want to sue because they get marks from the handcuffs.
Yep.
They all bring the pictures. Would that be a case you would take?
Most likely not.
Okay.
There's so many immunity. They're difficult cases.
Because I try to explain immunity to people, and they're like, "That's not fair." I'm like, "It's not."
Yeah. And that's a hard thing to explain because there's just so many of them.
Right. Don't you think the solution to some of the problem we're having with law enforcement, though,
Oh my God, here we go.
is to do away with immunity and say that everybody has to have an insurance policy on their officers, so that when the officer messes up, don't you think the insurance companies would monitor?
Oh, without a doubt.
Because what I see happen is an officer does something terrible. For instance, I know one that took a knife and slashed up some heat seats in a car, and then just was terrible. People,
He was searching for something,
he
right?
was searching. He found nothing.
Okay.
Took their carburetor off, laid it out. Just terrible. And so complaint was filed, and he just moved. They moved him to another county. He didn't lose his job. Then there was another officer that fought with somebody, took him behind a place and beat the hell out of him, and he moved. Don't you think if they were insured, they would monitor that a little bit better?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
But
there's consequences.
But they just can't. They don't, right? Because that's a constitutional issue with the immunity.
Yeah. Well, there's these just, if you're a state actor, if you're a government actor, then they provide protections. And some, the logic behind it, for example, in the context of a jail is a difficult place to work, and you're monitoring presumably a bunch of criminals, right? And so, the standard's not the same as if I'm, shopping in a grocery store.
But they haven't been found guilty yet.
Well, I suppose it depends on where you are.
Yeah.
Like jail versus prison is different.
Yeah. But I think the recognition is that could be a difficult job.
Right.
And you could be dealing with some difficult personalities. And so, how much there's some logic to it.
Yeah. I thought it all rolled out of segregation and racism, but that's just me.
It is just you.
No.
That doesn't happen anymore. But there's another policy behind it too. And it goes something like this. You can't sue the sheriff in your county because the sheriff is like it's like you, right? You as a community.
Because he's my elected official.
He's your elected official, right? Like it'd be like me suing me.
I can just vote him out.
If you don't like the way he does things, you can vote him out. But like essentially, the sheriff. Okay, let's say I'm in Harris County, right? And I vote sheriff, whoever the sheriff is, right? And he's the sheriff. And there's things that I don't like that he did, right? Well, he's my alter ego, right? Like he's my agent. You can't sue you. That's the other public policy part of it. You can't sue yourself. you can't sue the school board.
But
Because,
you let people in power literally get away with murder.
I mean, yeah,
Okay.
I agree
yeah.
with that.
It happens. It does happen. Anyways, well, thank you for joining the show. As always, make sure that you subscribe, that you like, and that you share us on social medias. We're Bob and Irreverent D Talk Law Podcast. Have a nice day.
See ya.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next time when Bob and Irreverent D talk law.